friends, and welcome back to the More Than Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Angela Walter Hagen, and on this podcast, we live out Ephesians 3:20. Now to him who is able to do immeasurably more than all you can ask or imagine, according to his power that is at work within us for all generations, not just for now, but to ripple through eternity. We believe that everybody craves more, but not more of counterfeits, not more of mediocre, but more of actually what really matters and will impact legacy. My husband and I feel compelled not just to live that out for ourselves, but to take you along with us. And we feel commissioned to share it with you so that you can live your more than life too. On today's episode, we have a very special topic and a very special guest. This is on more than missions. Now, many things may come to your mind when you think of missions. Maybe it's a mission like an assignment, a task, or a job. When you hear it in a Christian or a philanthropic context, you can think of going to help or give or outreach, especially one that crosses cultural borders. Many may think of traveling overseas and going to a different nation to spread physical aid and the gospel message. But the true definition of missions, based out of the Webster Dictionary, is an important assignment, duty, task, or purpose, often involving travel or specialized work, such as in the military, diplomatic, or religious context. It signifies a calling or a specific, often sent objective, such as a spaceflight, charity work, or a religious mission to convert. Now, with all of that, let's boil it down to something that we can actually take away with. It means sending someone for a specific purpose or job, a goal and objective that they're going to do because they're sent to do it. So specifically, how are we talking about that in the faith context? We're going to unpack what that actually means in faith on this More Than Missions episode. And what does the Bible say about it? Are you called to missions? And where is it actually happening? Today, I have someone very special on the podcast joining me to help me answer some of those questions. She was called to missions at a very young age, so much so that she went through a series of trips that all didn't work out until the right one actually did, that God called her to, where she actually ended up finding her husband. And however God called her to missions as a teenage girl, over the years, his promise stayed true to her. It just ended up looking very differently than what she had imagined. But God's plans are always better than what we can ever ask or imagine. This woman I have the privilege of introducing today on the More Than Podcast is my big sister, Kristen Hoka. Come on over, Kristen. Hi. I am so excited to have you on this podcast. This is like a dream come true. You have spoken into my life so much, and I adore you, and I love you, and I know everything there is to know about you, but now I get to introduce you to the More Than family. And so you are my family, and so I'm so excited that you guys get to know who she is, because she's like my little secret weapon.
Oh, so sweet of you to ask me on. That is so kind.
I was thinking about the way that we're positioned, and I'm like, we have no personal space anyway, so this is the way that we talk. And normally people at church are like, oh my gosh, you guys are like so close, but you're just gonna have to go for it because I'm a dentist. I don't know what happened to you. I have no personal space. But
I don't know. It's just a you thing. You and me.
It is just a you and me thing. No. Oh, it just always feels like everything we're talking about is so important.
I know.
I'm just like,
we just have to really get in there and make sure you hear it, right?
Like, this is the way. We have a sister and a friend like this that you can get up close with and just like talk about life. But I have the privilege of knowing you, Kristen. I have to try to refrain from using your nickname because I use it all the time. I don't think I ever actually say Kristen, so this is weird for me to say.
You get practice now.
Oh, but you are always there for me. You are so consistent in prayer and care for me. I get to dote on her a little bit and explain her to you, so I'm going to do that. She got her Bachelor's of Arts in Psychology and Political Science, which this girl can debate, and her Master's of Education licensed in K through 12 school counseling. Holla, she's awesome. She made me an aunt. I'd like to say that first over than you being a mom. I was like, you made me an aunt. Thank you. She is an incredible wife, a mama of 4 babies, a 9-year-old son, a 7-year-old, now she's 7, right?
Yeah, she's almost 8.
A 7-year-old little girl, almost 8, yep, in May. Mm-hmm. A 5-year-old little girl, and then a 5-month-old. So this woman is glowing 5 months postpartum and doing all the things. So she looks this good with little sleep. Like, I need to be like that. So I can attest personally to the heart of those kids. Like, you're an amazing mom. I know those kids so well, and their heart is so tender and so kind, and so just wanting to love the Lord. And that all stems from your motherhood and what we're going to talk about today, and missions, and having missions in all different places, not just the expected, what you'd think of, but also wherever God is calling you to, which can be the home. So besides that, having these kids didn't slow her down a bit. She homeschools all of them. Well, not the 5-month-old, but she's homeschooling. She's a homemaker. And by a homemaker, I don't just mean she keeps her house, wonderful and hospitable all of the time. She mills her own grain, okay? And she makes her own soap. Okay, can I just point this out for a second? Of course I have it. I need to show them this. This is handmade. It is sticky because I've been using it. This is handmade soap that she made. Now, not only that, this is what is this, shea butter or something? I got this for Christmas.
Yeah,
this is a whipped body butter. It feels amazing when it goes on. It's lavender. I don't know if you put your herbs in that or not, but I'll just say that this, okay, I just got this. Yeah, I had to bring this because this was like a winter project. She grew these herbs herself in her garden.
Well, then with the kids, yeah.
With the kids. Yeah, because of course that was an experience. And then she dried them. I don't know how you did that in your dehydrator. Yeah. She also makes me yogurt. And then after the long winter, it's like something on When Calls the Heart, for those of you that know, or Hallmark, she put them in a bar of goat's soap milk, right? Goat milk soap
goat's milk base
that she made. And this is amazing. I'm just going to call it forth that you're going to have your own shop one day. These aren't yet available to the public, but she's totally going to sell them.
My little girl likes to do projects and things like that. So she helped, and then my son helps pick all the herbs and things like that. So then it was like, we did it together, and then we tried to use them up before we start the new season again. So then we were like, we're going to put them all together. So
of course, we're just going to make a bar of soap with it. Yeah. So that way we know what's in it.
They like to do it. So
I love it.
Fun project.
That's amazing. And then you're also making all natural home remedies. Like, you made that for my dog who had a cut on his whatever. That's a whole long story, but I'm just saying she's doing it. Like, she's doing the homemaking. On top of that, she's our kids and family director at church with a counseling background. She is amazing in raising up the next generation, making them so God-fearing, so strong. And thank goodness she thinks of all that, because I hate that part. I just like talking to kids, and she organizes all of it. She's underrated funny. She's hilarious. You are. And she's a wealth of knowledge, crisp discernment. If I feel like I need an answer to a prayer, I go to her, and she's always aligned with the Spirit. She assumes the best of me. You lift me up all of the time. You always see the best in me, and you just show up over and over and over again. And I've been so blessed to be influenced by you, to be raised by you as being my 5-year elder. And I just love you so much. And her name actually means, well, why don't you tell them what your name means?
So my parents named, it's Kristen, and the way that they spelled it, if you take the IN on the end and put it in the front, it's in Christ.
Yeah, so. Which is amazing, which is an easy way to tell people how to spell it, but it also is like the gospel message literally in your name. And it is accurate to the way that God honestly created you, because I remember growing up, you would have these journals and you'd hear from God, and I just remember being your little sister and being like, I want to hear from God like that, I want to journal like that. And those of you, shout out, who haven't heard the More Than Journaling podcast, go back and listen to it, because a lot of what I learned from that was from watching you journal and hear from God and writing down what he's telling you. And so that changed my life, and you modeled that for me early on. So speaking of just journaling, and then God calling us to a call and missions. So tell us about your first call to missions, because it starts a long time ago.
It does. Well, first of all, she's making me sound way better than I actually am. It's just my sweet little sister telling me all that, but it's really
modest and humble.
It's really not that put together as she makes it out to be.
She's amazing.
But yeah, so missions, you're going to really make me think about it. Okay, so
we're going back.
We're going really far back. Mm-hmm. So honestly, I think it really started when I was really a little girl, and Dad used to walk me around when I was little to put me to sleep, and he always used to sing me that old hymn. Do you know that old hymn?
What is that?
Here I am, Lord.
Oh, isn't I, Lord?
Yeah.
I have heard you calling in the night. I will go, Lord, if you lead me.
I will hold your people in my heart.
Okay.
And so
you're making me sing with a bad voice.
It really, I think, is a testament to like what you speak over your children and things that like seep in, because I was just so little, and it was just something that was always like in my heart and in my head as he spoke that to me.
I never knew that.
Yeah, he always used to, when I was little and I was, struggling with all that pain and sickness in my legs, and he would just walk me.
Oh
and
my gosh! Shout out to you, Dad. Does he know that? He's gonna watch this and be like, "Oh my gosh, that's amazing!" Well, that speaks right there to parents to say like what you're speaking over your kids, singing over them, Bible verses.
So true.
That is like still dropping in their spirit, even when they can't understand it fully yet.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so then how did that look from the time when you were like, "All right, I'm called to God's people," but what does that look like in missions, and then how did that grow into your calling?
So, I mean, as I was growing up and in the church and things like that, I feel like when you hear missions, it has a very like specific vision around it, which is typically like you talked about, earlier, which is like going overseas and doing things where you're going out and things like that. So I think that that's really what I grew up envisioning, and that's what I was thinking. And I think like God in his goodness allowed me to continue with that vision, knowing that I would like, meet my husband and things like that for, to start our family. So I think that he allowed me to continue in that until it was ready, where I was kind of, I'm young and married, and I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm feeling the same missions vision that, I felt like the Lord put on me all those years as a teenager.
Yeah, right.
And I'm like, but Lord, like, I know it was missions that you wanted me to do. And like, what do you want from me? Like, what do you have for me?
Yeah.
And that's when I feel like he really started unfolding like this, deeper meaning to missions and to what that looked like in my life at that time.
So like you were called to the same mission, but the mode of it seemed to have changed. Yeah. Like you were called to reach his people and the hearts of his people, but the actual mode of that changed. Which, as believers, missions actually, we know in the Bible, is the Great Commission that Jesus gave us in Matthew 28, which is, the Great Commission is to make disciples. And it says in there, of all nations. And so what is a disciple? And it means simply to follow God first, follow Jesus, but then to learn what he's doing so that we can do it and then spread it.
Yeah.
And so technically, does that mean that every follower of Christ is a missionary? Like that we are on mission, that we are commissioned with this call that God gave us in Matthew 28?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, God gives us that commandment to go and make disciples, and in everyone's life, it might look a little bit different, but wherever God has placed you and whoever he's put in front of you, like those are the people that God is commissioning you to be able to, shine his light for.
Right. And I think too, like you said it well in the beginning, we can have an idea of what missions is, and it's like, okay, you go overseas and you help people. Yeah. And so like, let's unpack that, because yes, that can be a form of missions. And also I am like a huge believer in bringing physical aid to people. Like dental missions was a huge reason why I joined dentistry. I mean, God spoke to me on a mission trip and that'll be a whole nother More Than podcast. I always tell you guys when there's going to be another one, because I think of it as I'm speaking. But that was where God called me to missions, because I really believe that as you meet people's physical need, like you gain their trust, but then not paired with the spiritual and emotional need of bringing them Christ, that only goes so far. And we have to sustain them with the spiritual food that when we leave, Jesus can still transform their life. And so those two things, and our Great Commission as believers, is to really bring them the gospel. And that can be disguised as going over for bringing them food, bringing them dental, bringing them medical. And so, but God entrusts us with that mission. And so the full mission, though, is to bring the spiritual need, or the spiritual Jesus, the part that we all need, to a starving world. That's the real mission. And so when do you think you fully understood that as the Great Commission?
Honestly, I think God was working in my heart over time with it, because I don't think it was just one, it didn't just drop all at once, because I really felt so called to that very specific vision of like going overseas and doing missions in that mode.
Yeah.
And as I saw the Lord kind of redirecting my steps and my path, I was like, okay, what is this that you have? So I think it really took time and like just prayer and time in the Word, where I was reading things like what you were just sharing about, like in Matthew and things like that. And I was like, this, yes, black and white on paper, how we typically think about it, it does look like this, overseas or this going out. But I think that the Lord is redirecting my steps in that I'm going to be doing this, closer to home and in my home and, with those around me and in that way.
I love that so much, because I think that we can easily be like, okay, if I don't fit that category of being on a mission trip or being somebody called overseas, then it's like we take ourselves out of the race of being called to missions. And I think that is so conniving of the enemy to feel like, okay, well, somebody else is going to do it. Because the Great Commission, like we said in the beginning, is every believer, every follower of Christ is given Matthew 28 to go make disciples of all nations. Yeah. But what does that actually look like? Because if it's of every tribe, nation, and tongue, then that means across the world, but it also means our neighbor next door. Yeah. And I would even argue that sometimes I think, and you can tell me what you think, I think it's easier sometimes to go to another place where nobody knows you, give them a good word, and then leave. Like sometimes you get like more bold or more courageous there because you're like, I never have to see these people again. Yeah. And like sometimes it's actually harder to tell your neighbor you're going to see every morning, because you're like, what if they take it the wrong way? What if they judge me for it? What if like sometimes it can actually be harder to evangelize to your neighbor, to your person down the street, to your school, than when you're overseas in that context of it. Like, what do you think is easier for people to do?
Yeah, I think that it gives a dynamic, because you're seeing those people around you more consistently, and you have an image of like what they perceive you to be and who you perceive them to be, and so it makes it a little bit more challenging. And that's why too I think that the Lord is really kind. He gives us this opportunity just sometimes to show it in our actions, and so we can do that just by being like who God has put in us to be with the people that are around us. So some people we will wonderfully be able to share, plainly with words, and other people they might just be able to see, how we act, how we are acting when we interact with them or when we're around them. And
that's exactly right, because that's so true. Like, no matter what, the people around us in our sphere, they're watching what we do. Like, we're an example to them every single day. And we actually talk about the fruits later, which is so good because you already bring this up. But when you are called to missions overseas, like I also want to speak to those people. Like, yes, I believe people are called to specific areas, and like, but you need to really be listening to the Lord to hear that, because I believe there's a specific anointing that is over you to do and walk out that mission. And so listen to the Lord, like Kristen, like you're saying, like you really walked with God, and it wasn't just like one aha moment. It was really like okay, God, what is my next step? And my next step, like I think of that Bible verse, I don't know where it is in the Bible, but the one that he says, you'll put a lamp onto my feet. And so it's like he's not showing you like miles ahead. He's literally showing you one step at a time. And so your heart was always to reach people, but then that changed over time, and he showed you the mode and the how over walking it out with him. And so like I just want to speak to the people that feel overseas. Okay, pray about it, get wise counsel around, and ask them, okay, do you feel like also this is what I'm called to do? And then get support, and then do that well and wise and safely. But then for those that aren't called overseas, what does that look like for us? Because we don't want to say, okay, because we're not called to missions overseas, we're out of that. Because I've watched God honor that missions heart in you to evangelize to your community, to your kids' spheres, and then most importantly, to your mission field in your home. Because you have these tiny little disciples that are following you and watching you all of the time, which I just got to hang out with all of them before this. She was doing a great mama move before we came down here, as one was like, I want to be on the podcast. I want to be here. Like, no, how long are you going to take? You're going to take forever. And I'm like, yeah, this is real. Like, this is real life. This is the mama commissioning mission part. And so like, that's just a call to both of everybody listening to say like, we are all called to the Great Commission, but how is God going to walk that out? In Matthew 9:37 through 38, and you could read this for yourself, but really dive into that and ask God, like, where are you calling me to? What people are you calling me to? Is it my neighbor across the street? Is it my own home and my own children? Or is it a trip, or is it a short time trip, or is it just serving at my church and evangelizing to my community and my school? Jesus tells his disciples in that Matthew 9:37-38 that the harvest truly is plentiful, but the laborers are few, meaning that there is a huge need.
Yeah.
That means that it's not just, those people that are missionaries, like those people that are called to it. We are all called to it. So do not discount yourself. Do not think that this is just that person that went to theology school. This is that person that like knew they were going to go to Russia since they were 5. Like, no, this is to all of us to say that the laborers are few, but we need a lot. God is saying he's calling us. So rise up, laborers. He's actually commanding us to go out and to follow this great commission. So how would you encourage the person that isn't going on a mission trip overseas that their mission field is important?
I mean, I think that one of the most important mission fields that we have are with our families and the people that are in like our inner circle. Mm-hmm. Even if you're called to, like you're at your office being a dentist or you're a pastor or a mission field, like the most important sphere that you have is like with your family, with your children, with your spouse.
Yeah.
Those are the people that God has put before you first and foremost to be able to shine that light towards, because they're the ones that are going to see you when you're tired and when you're exhausted or when you've been up all night with the baby or in that, and then that they're the ones watching you to say, okay, how are you going to handle this? And they're the ones who see your most weaknesses, because those are the ones that it's easy. Like it was so nice. Like she helped me get my makeup and get all my stuff to do this. And it's like, this is so sweet. Like usually I'm just managing it with the kids and it's like, you are just tired and you are just doing your best. And that's when you're really like, Lord, give me the strength to be able to show them.
Well, I said, one of my earliest episodes is More Than Honest. So we are always honest on this podcast. And like in full disclosure, we're like, do we put the knee under the table because there's like baby milk on it?
Yeah.
So it's just like, we're just
got on my jeans.
And then I'm like holding the baby before, and I'm like, you are gonna pull the whole thing down, little guy. We're gonna hug it. But that's essentially the messy life, and you always look adorable. And so that's ridiculous. But so that's so true. You say that too, because I think about that in our work spheres, and I think like these are the people you spend probably most of your time with, if not more than with your family. You're with your coworkers, and these are people that you're constantly with, and that see you on high stress days, see you when you're tired, see you when things don't go well. In our patient spheres, a lot of things can go wrong. You're working with people, and a lot of things can be unpredictable, and a lot of things you can be running behind. And I always think of this, and this is a shout out to one of my favorite hygienists, Jenna. This is a shout out to you, but like it's so sweet because every single birthday she always gives me a card that's handwritten, and it's so beautiful. And she's done it, I think we were together like 8 years now or something ridiculous. But I always like, her words mean so much to me, because every time she like tells me like, this is how you're reflecting to like your patients. It's like, I have like a collection of like 8 of these cards, but I'm just like, it always just reminds me that like I'm consistent. Because I'm like, wow, like after year, like she is still like, you are still shining, like you are still amazing to your patient, you're still consistent, you're still like just bringing a light to the office. And like, I just love that, because that's truly like, and she sees me, running around there or tired, and she sees me when things aren't going the best, but like she sees that consistency. And so that like speaks huge.
Yeah. See, that's a testament to you, like working out the Great Commission in your life, like in your everyday life, in your day to day, because you are so consistent, like when you are on like here doing a podcast, or when you are off, you are just the same no matter what. So you are just always, shining his light like in everything that you do. And
thanks, Krista. Yeah. I was gonna say your nickname. They're all gonna ask now, what is your nickname? Thank you. Well, I appreciate that, and that's just truly like the light of God, because I say all the time, like I would never, like the energy, it's like, okay, I would crash, or the time, like I couldn't do everything he's called me to do, but it's truly like the light of the Lord. And I tell the kids in kids ministry on Sundays, I'm like, the Holy Spirit's like your superpower, and it truly is with you all of the time, and it will help you produce the fruit that people will ask you about, and that you get to share about. God, like this is why, because God is in my life, and he's changed me, and he's done this, and this, and nobody can argue with your testimony, because that's the way that God has directly impacted you. And I just want other people to know that they can have it too, which is why we do episodes like this, to talk about living a more than life and to being on mission and to reach people in your careers, your neighborhoods, how you spend your free time, your money, like all of those things point back to the Great Commission and the goal of reaching people that don't know him yet. Because if we know the living water, like why wouldn't we want to share that with everybody when it's changed us so much? So how can you encourage the person that's like, okay, I want to take my first step to impact my neighborhood right now, or I want to impact the person in my backyard? Like, I hear what you're saying. I'm like getting fired up. I'm like buying into the fact that, yeah, Jesus changed my life and I do want to share this, but now what do I do?
I mean, one of the first things I would say is to really just pray about it and just ask the Lord, like, who is it that you want me to speak to? And like, Lord, would you create an opportunity there for me? Because sometimes I feel like it's intimidating, and it is for me too, because I'm not as outgoing in my personality as you know, my sister is. So
yeah, well, to be fair, I'm also like really outgoing. So you're probably like normal range and I'm probably like way extreme. God just built me different. I don't know. I can like talk to anybody.
So you know, I'm always looking like for like that like natural opportunity to like bring it up, because I'm not one to just like be like so out of the blue. You know,
I'm like last night 10 o'clock at Wawa.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I know, but there's your personality, and the Lord will honor that if that's your personality too. Like, you know, so it totally depends on, you know, who God has built you to be, and God has built it in that way for you, and to not, you know, belittle like those children or those people in your home that you're speaking into. I mean, when you're, you know, speaking into those kids in your home and teaching them about God and about how they can really apply that to their day-to-day life, you're investing in something that's going to far outlive you. Yeah. And by doing that, you're investing in a generation that you will not see and you won't be here for. And so I think there's nothing greater than being able to work in mission right there inside your walls.
That's so true. And that's literally what we talk about through the Ephesians 3:20, that God will do abundantly more than you can ask or imagine, according to his power that is at work within us for all generations. So it really is the mission of, yeah, I want to affect the people around me, but I want to impact eternity. I don't want, like, we're here for but a vapor. So like, how is it going to echo and still impact people when I am dead and gone? How is it going to live on? And really our legacy is through your children and what you're fostering in that way. And so you're doing that so well. And I think about, and this actually goes perfectly into what we were talking about, like the fruit that you're saying that like people in your neighborhood and your community are seeing, because the Bible says we're in the world, but not of the world. So people will see that things look different about you, taste different, smell different, you know, you have a different aroma, and that will be enticing, and it'll be actually curious to them. They're going to be like, what is it about her that is so stable, that is so peaceful, that is so joyful? And in Mark 11:12, it talks about the fig tree and whether it withers and dies. You remember when Jesus curses the fruit tree? And I actually read this in my commentary, which I'm loving my commentary right now because I'm going through the Bible in a year and I've never done it this in depth before. But I didn't know this before I read this, but Jesus looks at it and, you know, he curses it, which seems extreme, but I love Jesus because he's like, this tree is there and he's like, there's no fruit on it. So he curses it so it'll never bear fruit again. But what I read in my commentary, because I always thought that was like a little, I was like, whoa, what does he have against this fig tree? But what I read in the commentary was that it actually wasn't fruit bearing season. None of the trees had fruit on them. What this tree had on it, which you probably know this because you're like a Bible scholar or whatever. She reads the Bible like through a year, every single year with like 4 kids. I'm like, what in the world? I'm trying to get through it one time and I have no children. I have no excuse. So anyway, he looks at it and it has leaves on it. And that is why he curses that one, because it gives the appearance of that it should be bearing fruit, but it has none. So this is to speak to the people that are like, if you're saying his name out of your mouth, if you're saying I believe, but you're bearing no fruit, then like we need to be walking out what we're speaking. If we're really saying like we love Jesus with our whole heart, then is our action showing that? Because if we love him with our whole heart and we're following him and we're close to him and we're spending time with him and we're journaling with him and we're praying to him and we're going to church and we're in a small group, everything will grow off of us to reflect that, because we can't help but grow his fruit when we're loving him and spending time with him. But if we're just talking about him and then they look at us and we're like, well, you look just like the world.
Pharisees.
Yeah, just like the Pharisees. They're like whitewashed tombs. They're like looking at us and they're like, well, you cuss like the world, you drink like the world, you're like sleeping around like the world, like you're doing all these things just like the world does. They're like, but you're talking about Jesus. Well, it's like you look the same, you have the same amount of angst and you have the same amount of rage and like all of these. It's like so confusing, and that's what Jesus is talking about. Like if you're gonna speak my name, then like your fruits are gonna reflect who I am. And then that's what people crave, because they want joy, peace, love, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Like they want that. So we can't be a people that say the right things out of our mouth, but don't do the right thing with our hearts and our actions. We need to be a people with true discipleship, which is the Great Commission to follow Jesus and then show others, teach others, instruct others what to do. Then that means we're not the self-righteous Pharisees, which I literally have written down. So see, you were exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so good because like what you said, but like the closer that you walk to him and the more that you spend time with him, he gives you like the Holy Spirit like empowers you to be all those things. So it's not like we're having to do it all like in our own power and own strength, because there's no way like that I'd be able to do all of that. And there are times that I definitely fail at that as well, for sure. But it's because like as you walk with him, then he strengthens you in that. So it's not you feeling like, oh, I have to do all of these things. It's just God, then infilling you to be able to do that.
That's right. Because that would feel so pressure and crushing. That would feel like so much if we just thought we have to just do these things now. I would never be able to do that. But it's an overflow of his love for me that allows me to just be aligned with him. And all of a sudden you crave the things that God craves. So we touched on this a little bit. We talked about overseas mission, right? We talked about neighborhood, community, going across your street. So you talked on this a little bit, Kristen, because you can't not help but talk about your kids and the legacy and the next. But then we want to talk about the greatest and first responsibility in your home, because these little people watching you all the time. You don't get a break from them. Like they are watching you. Like even like coworkers will still see you a little bit more on, I guess, than like you're in your home and when your patience is tested and all of those. So we have the greatest opportunity with our little ones at home watching. And so how is your home your greatest mission field?
It is definitely the greatest and one of the most challenging at the same time, because like I said earlier, you're investing in something that's going to outlive you, and you're investing in something. As you invest in them, you're investing in what the Lord is doing in their life, and as they're growing up and they have children, it's what they're going to be investing in. So it's all like God's grace and honestly, like it challenges you, as a mom or dad to pray harder and to go deeper in your own walk, because any parent knows it's physically and emotionally draining. You're tired and but you love them. They're so precious to you. They're the most precious thing. And so it just allows you to really dive deeper into your faith, and in doing different things how we found doing the grain was that we were praying for my daughter who was having some stomach issues, and the Lord guided us to that. And with homeschooling, it's like, my patience wasn't as good as it is now, and it's still growing, but I had to pray for that, as we walk through those days. So it's allowing me to be able to speak into things that they're going through, but then it's allowing God to really do a work in me at the same time. And so that allows me to just grow deeper with him. And so it really is it's a blessing.
Yeah, that's so true. I love the quote that Mother Teresa said: if you want to change the world, go home and love your family. And that just it's always stuck with me ever since I've heard it, because we can always feel like missions and everything out there is so important. And at the end of the day, we have to go home and we have to love our families. That is our first calling. That is our first mission. And like you're saying, like God has entrusted that mother, father, like to that specific child. And so no one can parent that child better than you if God has entrusted you with them.
Yeah.
And and I watched that radically change her health, actually, what God led you to, which we also want to do a whole More Than Grain or More Than Bread episode. Shout out to another one, because that's going to be great. But you do that so well, Kristen. You do that well. You love your family. And like I said in the beginning, it is so shown through your kids' security and the way that they are kind and loving and tender-hearted, and the way that they love the Lord at such a small age. And that is exemplified in your house, wherever you're doing these. Some of the things they tell us, I'm like, what? You do what in the car ride to school? Like, you sing what song, or you pray what thing? And like they're telling me Bible verses, and they're telling me these are just like little pockets of time. Like, can you even speak to that? Because we'll do a whole nother one on More Than Mothering. We're shouting out to a lot of future episodes. But just even speak to that now, like as a mom with littles, like under the age of 10, like how do you show them what that looks like to exemplify God to them, even in their small ways now?
I mean, I think one of the things that we try to do is just make it like applicable to what's going on in the house at that time. So it might not always be able to, especially with like our littlest is 5 months, we might not always have time to, sit down like we might in different seasons and necessarily go through everything, as we would like to. But like as things come up in our day and as the kids are going through different experiences, we really just try to use those moments to tie it back to God, in their, arguments with each other or things like that. It's just like, what does God say we would do in this moment and things like that. And it's just a lot of prayer. And I think too, just knowing like the value of what it is that you're doing, because sometimes not only just in missions, but just like in our environment, like in our culture, it's always like go out and do something, great. But if God's calling you to it, then it's as great in his eyes. If you're at home with your husband or your kids and investing in them, than if you're up on a platform in front of thousands. As long as you're doing what it is he's asked you to, then at the end of the day, when you're standing with the Lord and he's like, did you fulfill what I asked you to do? If that's what he asked you, then that is as great as that.
That's so profound. And I love that you said that, because I think that that's going to set a lot of people free. Because I think that in our culture, especially today, there's so much measurement around what success will look like and what impact looks like. And we can have such categories in our mind for what is significant. And I just feel like that is going to speak to so many people to say, like, we need to take off a label of what we think is successful. And this even goes back to the more than perfect, more than pleasing, people pleasing episodes, that it's about having the audience of one and listening to the Lord's voice and what is he calling you to. Because you could have in your own strength been like, well, God called me to missions early on, so I've just got to force this and I've got to go overseas. Because if you just kept following logic and what the world could have said, it'd been like, okay, well, this is what looks like it. But because you are in tune with the Spirit and you followed his lead, you've been able to follow those footsteps to be able to raise this beautiful family and to impact your church family through the next generation of kids ministry, rising up these little warriors. And talk about that, the missing of what God is calling you to if you're following what the world is saying or putting our own label on things. Because I want to talk about the place that missions even has in the church, because the second half of the Great Commission in Matthew 28:16-20 says that Jesus' final command to his disciples is to spread the gospel, make disciples of all nations, and baptize them, and then teach them how to obey his commands. And so I believe that churches are at the center of that Great Commission plan, because really saved people like to be around saved people, right? Like, it stirs up faith, and the gospel, once you understand it in your heart, like the book of Acts is all about rising up home churches, right? Being plugged in with other people that are other believers, because you want to link arms with other people. It'd be like falling in love with a certain sport, like Trevor and I got into pickleball, or we're trying to get into golf right now. But it's like, what do? We start hanging out with other golfers or other like pickleball people, because we're like, we want to learn from you, because I don't know nothing about this. this. Like, I just know that my name is Walter Hagen, and there was like a famous Walter Hagen person back in the 1900s. So I feel like I'm like meant to be a golfer now. And I rock the pickleball golfing outfits, so I will look the part. But I'm trying, like, we went to go play Top Golf the other day because I'm like trying to drive. I'm trying to be around the atmosphere, the people. I'm trying to look the part right. I'm trying to do these things because I'm trying to get better at it.
Yeah.
And as believers, if we accept Jesus and really know him, then it's like all of a sudden we're like, okay, well, we want to put ourselves around other people that have walked this walk longer, that have been through some trials, that have their faith has been tested. I want to be with people that look like Jesus so that I can learn how to be more mature in my faith. And so there's a strength in linking arms with other believers. That's why I think our sisterhood is so special, because you've taught me so much about your faith journey. I've watched you talk about being able to watch a sister walk out their faith journey. Like, I've literally seen you walk it out in your faith with God and pressing into him when it's not easy.
No, it's the same with you too. So,
well, we sharpen each other,
Yeah.
and we do that because we are both following the Lord, and by being tethered to him, we can help inspire each other. And so with that, how do you feel like the local church does play a role in missions, and how can we also commission ourselves to be a part of what God is doing through the local church?
Yeah, I mean, the local church, I think, is one of a great way to be able to reach our community and those that are around us, because with it being, in our neighborhoods, we're able to really see the people that live around us and invest in them. So just like volunteering at church and serving and getting involved in different ministries, you might not, it might not be like you can invest all of your time there, but on a Sunday morning, you could be a greeter, you could help in, one of the kids' classrooms, or you could just go to the local church and just start, like you said, being around other believers. And it really does, the Bible talks about that, about being around other believers in the faith, like you said. And so it's just putting yourself out there and just trying and again, just praying, like, where is your gifting? Because we all have giftings,
right.
And maybe you have, a really like welcoming personality. And so being able to be, someone at the front of the first people that they see, you're just smiling at people when you're at church, being a light while you're there. It really does and help you invest in those people that are around you and work out that mission that's right in your neighborhood.
Yeah, that's exactly right, because we are evangelizing or spreading the gospel or spreading this message to people in our neighborhoods. And then we're trying to connect them to the body of Christ by saying, hey, you don't have to do life alone. And I just shared this story last night because we're having water baptisms at our church soon. But it was amazing talking about like the roles of people at church and how like none of them are like ordered, like one is better than the other. If you're serving, like we're called the body of Christ, because like the ear wouldn't look at the nose and be like, well, you're not important because you can't do what I do. That'd be ridiculous. No, you look at it because you're like, oh, well, you do this function and we need you, but I do this function and so I can hear, and the eye sees, but we won't want to be each other because we need everybody.
And without one, the other ones wouldn't function. So in God's economy, it's not how we look at it as, one person's greater and their position has more power, just like when you're working, at home with your family, or when you're out there, speaking to thousands. As long as you're doing what God has asked you to do, to Him, it's you're fulfilling what you've been called to, and that's what's important to Him, and that's all at the end of the day that matters. Yeah,
you're fulfilling the Great Commission, huh? And so I was sharing this story that there was a lady coming into our church, and it was her first time there, just like when walking into kindergarten for the first time. She was like nervous, and she didn't know anybody. She was coming alone. Is brave, but she was just about getting ready to turn around and leave because she was like getting nervous. But she wasn't even out of her car yet. She was like coming into the parking lot, but a parking lot attendee, like a greeter, already saw her, started flagging her down, big waves. And so she tells us later in the church, she's like, I was already spotted, and he was just so friendly. And so it ended up making her come in because she's like, I can't turn around now, I've been spotted. So she came in and she ended up getting plugged into a women's group, drastically changed her life. She walked with the church for like 2 years, and then she ended up moving. But it's like, that's like every role of the church matters. And everything that we do, if we are so in tune with the Spirit to just lean in and listen to God's interruptions, listen to what He's calling us to, listen to what He's he's asking us to do on the home front, then like we get to be a part of God's miracle story that he's weaving together to bring more people to heaven with us, because that's what it's really all about, is redirecting traffic at the gates of hell. We want people to live a more than life. We want them to come along with us and to say that I follow Jesus and it's changed my life. So with that, rising up many disciples in your home, but also, like I said before, you are our family director at church and you get to rise up the next generation in what they're doing. So talk about how important you think it is to, one, connect families, like to have families all together going to church, and then how important it is to rise up the next generation.
Yeah, I mean, like we were talking about, like those children are in your home so much more than we see them at church. So no matter how much we're investing with them at church on a Sunday, that's only 52 Sundays for an hour and a half.
Yeah, 52 hours if they come every single Sunday.
And so without, you as the parents being able to really invest in them, or aunts, or, the people that are around them at home, that impact, it just doesn't reach as far as we'd like it to. So just love being able to, empower parents to feel like you are making such an impact by all the interactions that you're having. You are their greatest teacher. You are their greatest role model that they want to emulate, and to be able to see that in you, it far surpasses anything that any of us could be doing at church or any teacher can be doing at school. And just don't devalue the impact that you're having at home with those children, because it's truly what God has called you to, and those specific children are the ones that he's placed for a reason, because he know you could parent them the best, better than anybody else. And the same with the aunts in their lives, and grandparents is that those people that he's put in your sphere, like you talked about in your neighborhood, it's for a reason. It's not by chance. God has a plan for it. No
coincidence. Yeah, God exactly planned that. I love that so much. So can you tell a person right now that feels like missions is such a big concept, and they're like trying to wrap their minds around this, and then maybe the barriers come up like, well, I don't have time. Like, this all sounds great to serve at church or to talk to people in my community. I don't have time. I don't got money to give to whatever, missions that is. And I certainly don't have, maybe the boldness at school. Like, I'm just trying to get my grades together, because these are the true things. Yeah. Like, there are some barriers that the enemy would love to just have us so hung up on that we don't actually go out and spread the message that Jesus has for us.
I think, like we kind of mentioned a little bit earlier, it's just, if you're walking with the Lord and you're spending time with him, your actions in your day-to-day life is what's going to shine most brightly. And so just by being who God has called you to be, and being the best that you can be, through prayer and through the Holy Spirit empowering you with those that are around you, that is, walking out the Great Commission, because he's put those people in your life for a reason, and he's put those coworkers in your life for a reason, or whoever is in your sphere, your friend's sphere, and things like that. So just by really being who God has asked all of us to be, and being in the Word, and as the Holy Spirit empowers you to just walk that out, don't devalue those little moments where you have interactions with the mailman or the Amazon delivery, guy that comes to the door. Just be who God has called you to be in all spheres, and he'll honor that.
That's right. I feel like right now that leads into my next question, exactly, because I want you to speak to the mom that does feel like maybe she can't even get out of her house that much. Like, maybe it is a struggle for her to like reach out into the community or go across the street, because she is like a new mom, or she's just like swamped at home, and she's like, well, I have a desire to share the gospel, but all I see are these kids. Like, what would you tell her about her desire to share the gospel and who she's reaching?
Yeah. Well, another thing, one of my favorite verses is where it says that, like, the Lord gently leads those with young. And so it's like he's so kind when we're in these seasons. He knows that we're not able to get out as much as we may have before, or that we will again in the future. This is a season, but he's gently leading us, and he gives us those opportunities and that grace to just be in those moments. And it doesn't mean that we have to be going out and doing all of those things. There's a lot of times where I'm, at home, and that's that's where I'm just investing in my kids and investing in what God's put before me. And this is the season that He's put before me, and these are the children or the people He's put before me.
Yeah.
And but there's nothing lesser about that than being out and being pastoring to a whole congregation. It's, if He's asked you to do that, then that's what's most important. If He's asked you to be pastoring the whole congregation and you're not doing that, then that's not what He's asked you to do. But if He's asked you to invest in those kids and you're trying really hard to just get out and do something else, then you're still not doing what He's asked you. So as long as you're
answer to that,
exactly. So it's not that one is right and one is wrong. It's just what He's calling you to in that season, and the only way to really discern that is just through your prayer and your daily walk.
True. And that even makes me think of what you said in the beginning with Dad and him singing over you.
Oh, yeah.
Because that brings us back to the importance of having a parent that would just speak over their child the truths of God, and to speak over them. I mean, look at where it got you, and where that seeds He planted, where you didn't even know. It was just the overflow of His heart for God that dropped the seeds in your heart that led you to have a heart that was truly a heart of a missionary, to seek the lost. And God has shown that in the way that you so beautifully disciple at church, in your community, to other parents and to your kids, most importantly. So God is answering that prayer through what Dad spoke over. And I remember even growing up, Dad was always on his knees praying or reading the Bible and praying every morning at 5 a.m. If we ever accidentally woke up early or went down to bug him, he was just consistent. I remember that being so modeled for us over and over and over and over again. And so it's just they're watching you, not in a creepy way, maybe in a creepy way, but they're your kids are watching you. Yeah. Your kids in your home are watching you. People outside of your home are watching us. And it's is our fruit going to bear what God is? Are we going to be the tree that has the leaves and the fruit? Because I just don't want to have the leaves. Yeah. I want to have the fruit and the leaves. And so that is game changing, and it changes the way that we think about everything, because it also gives us the permission, because I love what you said about it's not lesser, and I think somebody needs to hear that. It gives us the permission to walk and step into the calling that God has to us, to be mission minded, whether that's in our home, across the street, or around the world. So that's not a lesser thing. All of those are the call of God, and whatever you are called to, the only thing that's important is that you answer it. That you answer what God asked you to do, not what they asked your mom to do, your friend to do, your pastor to do. They all will have their own conversations with God one day. When we meet Him, we will answer for what we did with what He gave us. And I want Him to say, you produced fruit. You did what I put in your hand to do, and you accomplished that. And that only comes between you and the Lord, talking to Him and having peace about it. And I see that fruit in your life. So I believe that you really have peace about what God has called you to in this season, to be stewarding your home and your children. What would you say, though, to the high school kid that, they're in a college campus and they're I'm busy doing all these things, but I do want to evangelize, or how do I do that? Where do I start?
Yeah, I think the best thing is just to really start with what's right around you and what's in front of you. So your friends are right around you, your teachers, your family, your siblings, even you can't discount, what a light you can be to a sibling in your home, which Angela so sweetly talked about so much today. Yeah, but it's true. It's just shining that light to everyone that's around you, and that God could have placed you in any country and in any school in the world, and He chose to have you be born into this, school in this district, and with these peers in this grade, that level that you're in, with those specific kids. So there is a purpose for that calling for right where you're at right now.
That's so true. When you think about that, when we said there's no coincidence, and the fact that you are born in this specific even time frame and era. Like I even hear some fear around like, oh, I don't want to have kids in this season of time or this generation because I'm so worried about the world. But it's like, if God is gifting us with these kids, then like for such a time as this, they're going to be equipped with what they need to not only survive this generation, but to be lights in it, to thrive, and to be their own missionaries on mission to flourish. What would you say to the mom right now that in her heart is to share the gospel, but she is probably only seeing the inside of her house right now?
Well, honestly, that's what a lot of my days look like right now too. But I would just say that just to remind yourself that there is no difference in God's eyes into what you're investing in those lives in your home or what you'd be out there doing. Whatever God is asking you to do in this season and in this moment, that's what is most important. And so to not think lesser of yourself or lesser of your calling or of what's in front of you, that it's not as important, because those are just lies from the enemy that are trying to make you feel less than. And it is a great calling. It is what God has placed in front of you. And so remember that and remind yourself of that when you're knee deep in laundry.
That we are more than, even in the knee deep laundry. And I think you said earlier something about even like thinking about relationships with like your mailman or your Amazon guy. Like if you're in your house, like, heck, those people are still people that if that's like your interaction for the day, then like bless them. Or like pick up a phone and call a sister. Talk on the phone with a sister. If you can't get out and see them, like talk on the phone, because like you can still be a light no matter what. And like she keeps saying though, your kids, you're discipling your children, and that is like the hugest mission field, because it just brings me back to Mother Teresa's quote: if you want to change the world, go home and love your family. And so that really is what changes the world. So you probably know some of these things, but I had to look up some of these statistics, that the U.S. is both a huge sender, so I knew that, of missionaries, but we are also actually a huge recipient of missionaries, which blew my mind, because I don't really think of us as America as like a mission field in that way. Like I'm like, oh, people are coming to save us. Like they're coming for you and me. We are the third largest mission field globally, with 32,000 foreign missionaries arriving annually to evangelize to us.
Wow.
That blows my mind. They're coming to help us and save us, because they realize that they see a need here in our country, in our nation. We have over 184 unreached people groups right here in the States, and less than 18% of Americans attend church. So we are a post-Christian society, which just broke my heart, because I think of America as like a nation founded on God. And to see where we've come, that we really need to go back to our roots to say that we are one nation under God. And so we are going to be evangelizing to our neighbors to tell them that. I heard before, this was a few years ago, but there was a missionary from another country, and she was actually persecuted in that country for her faith, and her husband ended up coming here to the States. And I remember hearing her talk, and she was saying that she actually wanted to go back to her country. She said she told her husband she felt really convicted, because she felt like America was like being lulled into a lullaby, and we were all just kind of going to sleep like numb. And it was like a lullaby in a merry-go-round that wouldn't stop. And she's like, I want to go back and evangelize to my people that are literally dying for their faith. She's like, because that's where the fire is. And I just think about that, and we see fires coming up in places in the nation, and we need to set more fires and bring that flame, because people need Jesus. And so God's calling you to wake up other people, our churches to wake up, to evangelize, and to be on mission here in the States. So I believe it's truly in the ordinary 9-to-5 businessman that's working during the week, and he's leading worship on Sundays, or it's the school wrestling coach that's inviting dozens of teenagers back on a Sunday morning because he believes that Jesus will change their life. Or it's in the woman that, I don't know, sells insurance during the day, and then she runs a Bible study at nighttime because she believes in discipling other women in the faith. It's in a teenage boy inviting his Muslim friend to church to introduce him to Jesus. It's in an 11-year-old girl whose parents, they don't fight anymore because she told them, I love my kids' ministry. Will you come back and bring me to church too? It's in the ways that we evangelize to other people by being on mission and by showing them Jesus, because we have Jesus in our hearts. And so it's not this big lofty idea of you going out there. It's about changing people's lives because of what Jesus is doing through your life, and you sharing and mobilizing and going and teaching and spreading the word of God and discipling in our backyard, in our homes, and to other nations. But wherever God is calling you, that's the right answer. And so truly, this is more than missions, and we're called to it. You're called to it. And so my heart even just like gets excited right now thinking about that, because we're charged. Like there's a charge that we're commissioned to do it. When you're commissioned to do something, it's a task and a goal that you want to accomplish. And it's literally us being sent out. That's where we started this whole podcast, is by the definition of being sent out on mission to accomplish a goal and a task. And God's asking you to do that. And this is life-changing work. Like, the enemy wants to sideline you and be like, somebody else is doing that. This is life-saving, populate heaven, save people from, an eternity separated from God. This is about saving people to not just survive, but to thrive and live a more than life. And the Bible says to make disciples and go to Samaria and the ends of the earth. And for those that don't know, Samaria is Jesus's neighborhood. It's his backyard. It's his hometown. And so that's for us to go to the ends of the earth, but to go to Samaria and to go to our neighborhood. And so how has the Great Commission just briefly evolved in different seasons of your life? How has that looked really different? Because it's changed so much.
Yeah, definitely. When I was younger, it definitely looked more like going overseas and doing it in the way that, might first come to mind when you think of missions. And we did that, like you talked about. We did that. We, lived overseas for a little while. And then as, life changed, I could feel that God wasn't directing us that way anymore, and just staying close to him and praying through that, and seeing how, like you said, the Great Commission is with your neighborhood, in your family, with
right.
your children. It's still just doing what God has asked you to do in your sphere.
Yeah. But I've seen that take so many different forms in your life. Like I even think back to like you being in high school and you beginning the Best Buddies chapter in our school, which was pairing children with disabilities with somebody in their high school to give them a true high school experience, to make them not feel alone, but to make them feel like they had a home. So you were missional minded to reach the unreached people, to reach the people that didn't feel seen or loved. And then when you went off to college, you joined the international organization or association there. Mm-hmm. And that was a way for internationals who were coming to America to feel like they had a home and connected and loved. And so God made that look so many different ways for you. You would even go into the prisons and led Bible studies there. And, you led, oh my gosh, Sunday school for as far back as I can remember. You were like a kid teaching other kids. Mm-hmm. And you modeled that for me in a lot of ways. And so your heart for missions got honored, but it can look so many different ways. And so that's for somebody that's just like, I'm not really sure, I don't fit that box. So take that box off of yourself, because God will give you the audience that he's calling you to if we're just going to lean in and listen, because the need is everywhere. And we found that out. And this is just a moment for you right now too, to remember to just go back and listen to the More Than Betrayal episode, because we talk in there about Revelation 12:11, that we are healed and set free by the blood of the Lamb, which Jesus did. And he set us free by that, but it's completed with what the word of our testimony. And that is our mission. Like Jesus already gave his sacrifice on that cross, but then he's like, go share it, go spread the word, go share the testimony. That's our mission. And so that's where we pick up the torch and share it. And we are asked to make disciples. And if More Than in any way has impacted you, would you just take a second and like and share and subscribe so that more people can live more than too, because they need to know that they're on mission too. And so, Kristen, speak to the person right now for a second, that they're going to close this podcast and they're fired up, they're charged up, they're like, okay, I get it, I'm on mission. God has sent me to make disciples and to share what God has done in my life, but now what do I do?
Yeah, I would say just really pray for God to just open your eyes to what is already right around you, what opportunities you have right there, and also what opportunities you could step out in that might not be necessarily your comfort zone, but maybe it's serving at church, maybe in something that you might not necessarily think is your strength, and God will show you that it could be your gifting. he'll honor that.
And I'll just add one thing to that because it just happened just this week. But thinking about being missional in our church too, like I get to lead our 6 to 12s or be in kids ministry. And thinking about that, I had a young girl and she's getting water baptized, which praise God she is. But when she walked into the church and she was sharing this with me, she's like, I felt something so different. It was like nothing I've ever experienced before or felt. And she kind of described it as like feeling like it's like a cold room, but then there was like a gust of warm wind. And she's like, she was trying to describe it and she was like, it was like energetic and bouncy and you were just so motivational and inspiring. And she's like, I just felt like love, like, and she's just trying to put all these words, but she was describing the Holy Spirit. And it was just so beautiful because it was just this, like she got it because she felt it. And it was just me saying, yeah, I'm going to wake up on another Sunday and I'm going to go serve. Not knowing she was going to walk into those doors, not knowing that would unleash her to be able to evangelize. And she's passing out more than cards and she's so introverted. And yet she's going to grocery stores and handing these out outside of her comfort zone. And she's like, this girl I gave it to in the grocery store, the girl asked me, well, why me? And she's like, I was like, I didn't know what to say. And then she's like, but then I just felt like I told her, well, because I felt like God needed you to have this. And it really impacted that woman. And she's like an 11-year-old girl. She's stretching her faith muscle to share the word of God because it can be uncomfortable, but to do it and to see God come through, it's like nothing else that builds your faith. And so to know that we can do that, to be missional. And then I'll leave you guys with this last statistic as we close, that there's a huge number of international students coming to America. And we know this, being in the medical field, I see so many, and it's wonderful to learn who they are and their different cultures. But in 2023, there was 778,000. But the stats show that 78% represent areas that have limited access to the gospel. So these are internationals coming here. They have limited access to the gospel. And then this broke my heart that there was 80% that returned to their home country without ever being invited into an American home.
Wow.
I just thought, wow. We need to be doing a better job of inviting people into our lives, into our homes, loving them like Jesus and sharing Jesus with them, because the mission field is here. And you're so bold. You've modeled that over the years, Kristen. You truly have. Like people say you're like, oh, the quieter sister. But yet, as you even said early on, maybe you could be a little more introverted. Can you share to the person right now that also maybe relates to you and is like, well, I am more introverted. Like, how do you find the boldness to go?
I think that God really just will be generous to your personality and to who he's made you to be. And so he'll open those opportunities where you feel like more comfortable in sharing and where you feel like you can step out. And in those environments where, you know, you're at home sharing with your kids, or you're at the grocery store, or, you know, things that just feel more natural. And so to just keep praying and walking in step with the Holy Spirit, and that he'll just guide you to those moments.
Like you being on the More Than podcast.
Yes, like stretching my comfort zone right now. She's making me sound way more wonderful than I actually am. Totally so it's just so sweet of her. But
well, thank you for being on the More Than podcast. I don't have to know exactly what they're going to say to know that you've been a blessing to them. Thank you for sharing your wealth of knowledge and discernment. This is not going to be the last time, because I already nodded. I pretty much told them to expect other episodes with you on it. So this has been the More Than podcast. Thank you for being on it with us. You guys, we are praying for you. We love you so much. And just make sure that you're sharing it, because we believe everybody should be living a More Than podcast. Thank you for being on today. I love you so much
for having me.
Go out and live your More Than life.